For this video, we are going to focus on adding mixed numbers, and since I have two different strategies for this video is going to focus on my first strategy. And we will start off by trying to add 2 3/7 plus 4 2/7. Notice how we have a common denominator. And then we're going to try 3 2/5 plus 5 4/6. Notice that we have an uncommon denominator. And if we know how to add our fractions, adding these mixed numbers is actually really simple. It's basically the same thing with one extra step. So let's focus on our common denominator example first. When we're adding mixed numbers, I know I originally wrote it like this, but I usually tend to prefer to write it like we would a normal up and down addition problem. So I'm going to rewrite it as 2 3/7 plus 4 2/7. Notice how I've lined up my fractions and I've lined up my whole numbers. And remember what mixed numbers mean. The 2 is the whole number, meaning we have 2 wholes of whatever we're working with, and then we have 3 out of 7 pieces that would make a third whole. So we don't quite have 3, we have 2 and a little left over. Same thing down here, we have 4 wholes, and then out of a total 7 pieces we have 2 of them, so 2/7. So if we're adding them together, just like with addition, we should start on the right side. So we're going to start with our fractions. Now thankfully in this first example we have a common denominator already. Since we have that common denominator, we add the numerators. 3 plus 2 is 5. Keep our denominator. So we have 5/7 now. 3/7 plus 2/7 is 5/7. Then we add up our whole numbers, just like we normally would. 2 plus 4 is 6. So 2 3/7 plus 4 2/7 gets us 6 5/7. What do you know? We've finished the problem. Just like before, common denominators make it very, very easy. But let's try that problem now that didn't have a common denominator. So here it is again. We have 3 2/5 plus 5 4/6. And just like before, I'm going to rewrite the problem. 3 2/5 plus 5 4/6. And it really doesn't matter which number is on top or which number is on bottom. Thanks to addition, commutative property of addition, the order does not matter. But as you probably noticed, and as I mentioned before, we do not have a common denominator this time. So we're going to actually have to create some equivalent fractions. And we're going to have to decide, what do 5 and 6 have in common? What is their least common multiple, so that we can create some equivalent fractions. Remember, I have a video on creating equivalent fractions. Review it if you need to. But here we go. I know that between 5 and 6, their common denominator is 30. That's the least common multiple between 5 and 6. So now I need some new numerators. Here we're going to have 12. Think about why that became 12. What relationship does 5 to 30 have? And then what relationship does 2 to 12 have? Both of them are being multiplied by 6. So we can multiply the numerator and the denominator by 6. That's how we get our 12/30. Down here at the bottom, the 4 becomes a 20 because we multiplied both by 5. So now that we have our common denominator, we can add everything up. We have 12/30 plus 20/30, which gives us 32/30. And then we have 3 plus 5, which is 8. So if we're adding these two mixed numbers together, we end up with 8 32/30. But we have a problem. There's something wrong here. What do you notice? Hopefully what you notice is that we have a improper fraction. So we're also going to learn right now, how can we take an improper mixed number and make it proper? So let's see. When we're trying to change an improper mixed number into proper, we're going to start off by taking that whole number and we're going to set it off to the side. We're not going to worry about it right away. We're just going to focus on our improper fraction that's part of it. And as I showed before, 32/30ths can be written as 32 divided by 30. A fraction is actually a division problem. So if we divide this out, 30 is our divisor, 32 is our dividend. Well, going through our division process, 30 can't go into 3, so I put a 0, but it can go into 32 once. So 30 times 1 is 30. We subtract and we get 2. Now we could say 1 remainder 2, but remember, as I mentioned in an earlier video, when we're dealing with fractions and we're changing improper fractions, we don't want remainders. We want to change it into a mixed number. So our whole number up top, our quotient, part of it, becomes our whole number. Our divisor stays as our denominator. And our remainder becomes our numerator. So 32/30ths is actually the same thing as 1 2/30ths. But we've got an 8 left. Remember that 8 that we set off to the side? So if I take 1 2/30ths, I have to combine it with that 8. So we're actually going to add those together. Well, I don't have a fraction, so I know my no fraction on the 8, so I know my fraction of 2/30ths is going to stay the same. Eight plus 1 gives me 9. So there we have it. We added 3 2/5 plus 5 4/6. Once we had our common denominator of 30, we created equivalent fractions and got 8 32/30ths. But since we had that improper fraction, we took that improper fraction and divided so that we ended up with 1 2/30ths, 1 2/30ths, and then we combined it with our whole number. 8 plus 1 2/30ths gets us 9 2/30ths. Now what we could do from this step on is take this fraction and simplify it, but we're not going to focus on that in this video. So there you have it, adding mixed numbers with common and uncommon denominators using one strategy. In the next video, I'll show you a different one.